So I want to welcome you to another beautiful morning in Toronto, although I'm clearly recording this the evening before. It's interesting times, isn't it, Downsview? We had the premier of our province, who I think by all accounts everyone would agree has really stepped up and really sought to do a fine job in these difficult days and uncertain days that we have in our province. I hold no political bent that way, but I want to give credit where credit's due. And I saw our premier yesterday come out with a plan to implement in the coming weeks and months. And I found myself taken just a little aback at some of the comments out there, and even some of the comments from folks that I thought in some ways may have known a little bit better, should have known better, and who doesn't do that, who doesn't talk in ways that they could have talked better. I realize that. But I found myself thinking, the church is not going to do our society in general any good if we constantly get on the same bandwagon as those in society who have a reoccurring theme that good is just never good enough. No matter what we've done, there's always something to be critical of. And hey, I get it. Politicians are their own best friends or their own worst enemies in these ways, aren't they? Some of the things they say, you just shake your head at, and you wonder where their publicists are or where their where their wives are. Sometimes, anybody edit this? Anybody look at this before it came out? And you can pick your easy political kickballs, but that's just it. They're easy targets. And I think it's a bit lame sometimes, frankly, when the church comes out and it thinks that, those are the kind of targets that we're going to pick. There's something about a spirit of honoring those who are in authority over us, because that spirit resonates with us wanting to honor, as Romans 13 talks about, the governing authorities and submitting to these governing authorities, in particular because it says that there is no authority that exists except that which has been established by God. And there's something about honoring those in authority and honoring God. I feel like there's something about honoring God by doing the speed limit, as you know. There's something about honoring God by, paying your taxes. There's a way to honor God by putting money in the parking meter, if that's the law. Right now, there's a lot of laws that our governing authorities have made, and they're the kind of things that we should simply, as a church, sow ourselves to be law-abiding citizens, eager not because of the character and quality of the authorities themselves, but because of the character and the quality of our God, whom we seek to represent and even reflect. When it comes to this issue that I was watching today of trying to put a plan in place, I saw Premier Ford certainly lacking detail and certainly lacking dates, certainly lacking some of the more intricate aspects of what it might look like. But as I was driving home, it was actually Pam who said it, that her and one of her colleagues at work were speaking, and they said, I guess even though you don't have it all filled out and know exactly when and the wherefore, he's trying to give a sense of hope. That if you can see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, if you can see that there's an end in sight to this thing, or at least that there's going to be one, then maybe we'll hang in there and keep doing the kind of things that we've been doing. And keep doing the things we've been doing rather than what feels like to me and others an increasing sense of anxiety out there that comes from a determination that we don't have to take this anymore. You see it all over the press in the States, and again, I know the press is in the business of selling newspapers, and you want to be careful where you get your news from an entertainment source, but there's outrage upon outrage, it seems, and that, we shouldn't be shut down, we shouldn't have to have these restrictions, we shouldn't do these things. And I thought, the governing authorities have a couple of strategies, and one of them is, okay, let's help people understand this thing's not going to last forever. And we don't know all the details yet, but here's what we know. And this is good news. And shouldn't it help, and shouldn't we want, particularly as a church, for this to help bring a sense of calm, or keep a sense of calm where maybe it is, or offer a sense of calm where it might not be? I was reading in the Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 25 that anxiety in a person's heart weighs it down, but a good word cheers it up. The next verse says, a righteous person is careful in dealing with his neighbor, but the ways of the wicked lead them astray. There's something about a concern for one another. There's something about a concern for my neighbor. There's something about anxiety that can quickly lead to panic, and we saw that a few weeks ago. The way everything was being bought up at the store, and there was long lineups, and people were upset and angry with each other. It feels to me like that was a long time ago, even though we've only been at this for less than 2 months now. It's been 2 months, folks. Come on. Let's get a little sense of perspective at some point in this. And there's something about us, I think, the responsibility that we have as a church to seek to bring good to society in general, isn't it? We've defined love over the years. At least part of a definition of love is that it is a sacrificial determination to do another good, especially as it relates to that person's eternal good. But especially, not only. And along the way towards seeking someone's eternal good, their temporary good has to matter to me as well. And it gives me an opportunity to show that I do care, I do love, and you do matter to me. Because you matter to Christ, and Christ died for people just like you. And you see how easy it is to have a conversation about sharing what we say we're living for, the one that we say we're living for. I think any opportunity we have today to help people lessen their anxiety, the scriptures just said that this issue of lessening anxiety is a form of, in fact, it's an act of love, isn't it? And I think when I see the common grace of God played out in, albeit not a churchman as a political leader, but someone who is saying things that I look at and I think, okay, this is what we want. We want to get back to church. We want to get back to our lives. And it's going to be a while before it looks exactly the same. And there's plenty of our old lives that we shouldn't be the same, right? I think the yearning for us to be together and joining together and perhaps not taking each other as easily for granted, and maybe not skipping out at our meetings as easily. There's lots of things that I think we'll probably do differently. But isn't one of those things that we have the opportunity to be sure that we call good good when it's good, and not just find ourselves joining in with the mockery that, well, it's not good enough. Well, there's always something else that we can do. That's a dangerous road. It's not an attractive road. It's an ugly road. And there's way too much of it in me. And I praise God, like I know you do, when God points out something that's less than encouraging. My name wrote in that Facebook post today, I said, I'm not sure that me whining about the whiners is my best move. And I took it down. But let's today, on Tuesday, find ourselves looking for opportunities that we can ease people's anxieties. Remember, friends, Augustine said centuries ago, all truth is God's truth. And where it's true that something is said, even in the media, that there's hope out there, well, that's God's truth. and we should get behind it as Christians. However, God will give us opportunity to do that. So have a terrific day this morning and throughout this day in the Lord. Cheers.